Good evening again. This is Seth Moore coming to you on Anchor by Spotify by the way of Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Podbean, Apple Music, and many more host sites. Good evening, everyone. It's currently 46 degrees out in a clear evening. Blue skies, a little chilly here in the Love State. We're coming to you again for another podcast. And we're going to be sharing with you some profound, interesting information on what is actually happening and how our world continues to spin. So stay with us, and we're going to proceed in just a few moments. I want to share with you this evening some really profound things that the Creator has spoken to me. Perhaps you as well. I want to share them with you. Nature does not hurry, and let everything is accomplished. Study the past if you would define the future. It is easy to love your friend, but sometimes your friend, the hardest lesson to learn is to love your enemy. So I'm going to share some things with you that the Creator gave to me, and they're pretty profound. They're actually real profound. And it actually shook me up when he gave it to me. And he spoke this to me. And I was like, really? And he said to me, or I could say he, she. See, because there's a duality, the Creator's nor 100% masculine, but there's a feminine energy as well. Okay, so I don't want, because to look at something as just one entity or one, one force or one energy would not create the balance That's really due. And that holds things together. So I'm going to take my time as much. And if I don't, of course, finish, then I will come back with another segment. And I'm going to share this with you. Your mind is not who you are. For those of you who wrestle with thoughts and you have an overactive mind, it's only because the mind wants to direct you in ways in which you may not want to go. So the mind is not you. The mind is just thoughts. And I know that I've said before about having an equilibrium and a balance for all things to work. So when I said mind, emotions, and energy being aligned, don't always think mind as being your mind, because your mind is not you. Okay? And I know you've heard people say before, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Sometimes the mind can waste you because you rely on it too much. And you may say, what are you talking about? Well, you've also heard people say the mind can play tricks on you. Have you not? So true. The mind is an entity that wrestles with thought. It is wrestling in you because you believe that it's you, and it's not you. It's the thoughts against other thoughts in your mind that are doing the wrestling. And you can actually remove yourself from the equation because what you really are is not in your mind. Now, that may not make sense to you, and you might be like, what are you talking about? Because a lot of you use your mind to make decisions, and you think you are actually using your mind to make decisions, but you're really making decisions within your intuition. Your intuition. And what is your intuition? Your intuition is a knowing of something that you find the best way to solve things. That's your intuition. It is not your mind, but let me say this. So when you are making those decisions, a lot of times they will go to your mind because they have to internalize themselves first before they actually transmit to what we call your mind. Okay? So when you are wrestling in your mind, it's only because you are not allowing the intuition to take hold, which is your body. Because you are in your body. You are not in your mind. You are in your body. Now, you may not understand what I'm saying because this may be foreign or new to you, but you are in your body where everything actually happens. And when things happen in your body, it's usually transmitted to your mind for a reaction. Okay? It's just like if you burn yourself, it happens in or on your body. And then it goes to your mind and you say, ouch, or damn, or shit. Excuse the vernacular, but you know how we do. It has to transmit from your body to your mind. So those of us, or those of you who are wrestling in your mind. It's only because you're allowing the mind to dictate to you what's happening. And you'll get this after a while, because I'll be sharing more with you, but it'll come to you. So you have to escape from your mind, not run from it. And so when the thoughts come, you are often, those are not my thoughts. A lot of you may get thoughts that are like real heinous thoughts. And those are the thoughts that want to infiltrate into your mind and in your brain. But you'll say, those are not my thoughts, because there's a war going on within the mind realm. Other thoughts fighting against other thoughts that want to make you think it is your mind, but it's not your mind. So how do you begin to operate from a different spiritual vantage point? The way you do that is to empty yourself of all thought. Because that's all it is. It's an illusion. But a lot of you make decisions, choices with your mind. And then you ask, why did I do that? Why did I mess up? Because the mind told you to do it. And you followed it because you trust your mind. When you shouldn't always trust your mind. Now, when it's happening within, you process within, and then you can bring it to your mind once you process it within and find out if internally it's the right thing to do. So leave all thought. You must leave all thought. You must leave relying on your mind. Knowledge is the key, is the treasure, and the practice is the key to it. You can overcome bad habits only today, not tomorrow. Think about that. Because there is no future. There is only now. There is only now. We're in the moment. In the African lexicon, there were words that they never used, like future or tomorrow. It was only now. You're in the presence. Who knows doesn't say. Who speaks doesn't know. Plan for what is difficult while it's easy. Do what is great where it is small. So, I'm going to tell you what the Creator said to me. And this is really profound. I was lying down. I was in a posture of going to sleep. And the Creator said to me, He said, you are the golden ratio. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you what the golden ratio is. Now, the golden ratio just briefly, I'll just give you a real basic synopsis, and then I'll read some stuff to you. The golden ratio is the divine proportion. Divine proportion. And when he said that to me, when that energy spoke that to me, I was like, for real? I was like, for real. Now, divine proportion is a spiritual law system that is set up in the universe. That is set up in the universe that every element has to follow. Okay? And I'm going to give you some information on what the golden ratio is. Okay, so, because I was blown away, because when I actually had did some brief research on this before, because I know it deals with sacred geometry and so forth, and everything working off of that model. Okay. So, and let me say, I just want to say some other things before I get started. I am an everlasting entity filled with love, compassion, desire to see the rise of all the Creator's manifestations. I get no pleasure in the hurt of any created being. Rather, I get more joy out of seeing the ascension of every created thing, whether it be a flower blooming, busting through its roots, whether it be a clear sky, the birds singing, the rain that's falling, the sun that's shining, which we need to create all life on this universe. I have more pleasure in giving what I have than what I have. I love seeing God's creation blossoming. During the course of my day or space that I'm in, I make it a priority to say hello and to treat someone with good energy, or to help someone in need of help. I love seeing the smiles on the faces of people. I love hearing good news rather than news to demean or to belittle or to hurt someone else. It is my hope that all of creation will be mended and adjoined to the creative sources in this universe to produce what is righteous and to have what is love. I look forward to every day and every moment to hear good news and to give good news. I never compete for attention because I don't have to. I am not doing anything to seek pride or recognition. Everything I do is out of the love for truth. I look for nothing back but a thank you. I realize that who can give you more than the Creator? I am that I am. I am in a space where He has me. Nothing is by happenstance. And all things are what they are to be what they are. So I'll read. And like I said, if we move beyond the time, I will come back. Some of the greatest mathematicians' minds of all ages, from Pythagoras and Lucius in ancient Greece through the medieval Italian mathematician Leonardo of Pisa and the Renaissance astronomer Johannes Kepler, to present day scientific figures such as Oxford physicist Roger Penrose. I've spent endless hours over time over this simple ratio and its properties, but the fascination with the golden ratio is not confined just to mathematicians, biologists, artists, musicians, historians, architects, psychologists, and even mystics have pondered and debated the basis of its ubiquity and appeal. In fact, it is possibly fair to say, that the golden ratio has inspired thinkers of all disciplines like no other number in the history of mathematics. Now, I will say this from the beginning on this, and I'm not going to make a big thing of it, but it's amazing to me how they give the Greeks credit for this idiom, I guess I could say. They give them the credit for it when it was the Greeks who learned from the Kemites. But I won't get into that because I'm not going to make this but it's just amazing. I just want you to be able to see how things are done, because it is the Kemites who were the first, probably them or the Sumerians, who came up with this theorem of the golden ratio. Okay, and it says, what is the golden ratio? In mathematics and in the arts, two quantities are in the golden ratio if their ratio is the same as the ratio of their sum to the larger of the two quantities, when the golden mean is conceptualized in two dimensions. It is typically presented as a rectangular spiral that is defined by a series of squares and arcs, each forming golden rectangles. Okay, so now, some of you, if you look at a snail and you pick up the shell and you see the circles around the shell and you'll see the little bulb in the middle, that is a golden ratio. If you look at sunflower seeds from the plant, from the sunflower, and you examine it carefully and you see the pattern of how it grows and how it has this sacred geometry, that's a golden ratio. So when this was spoken to me, and as I mentioned, the golden ratio being a divine proportion. And so when the Creator spoke that and said, your divine proportion in this universe, in the makeup of this universe. So in other words, you are a sacred geometry in this universe from where all things have their origin. And so when you look at the plant, when you look at the snail, when you look at all of these things are us. We are the sacred geometry in the universe. We are that sacred geometry in this universe because our growth in this spiral of the cosmos is actually perfect. Is actually perfect in the sacred geometry model and format. And so when you look at these things and look at how profound they really are, you can pick up like when you pick up a artichoke, a fresh artichoke, look at the artichoke and look at the way it grows. Look at the sacred geometry and the patterns and how it grows. That is not by accident. That is spiritual law. That is a spiritual law in the way it grows to create the nutrients that it gives to the environment, not only to the environment, but to you as well. So for those of you who are vibing in this energy, you are sacred geometry. You are the divine proportion in the universe. And you can look at many of these things and see just how fascinating it really is. It is absolutely fascinating. The golden ratio has fascinated Western intellectuals of diverse interests for at least 2,400 years. The earliest known monuments believed to have been built according to this alluring number are the statues of the okay, here we go. These numbers and patterns, okay, the statues of the Pantheons in Greece, dating back between 490 and 430 BC. However, there are many who have argued that it goes back much further than this and that the Egyptians were well versed in the properties of this unique number. See, but you know they had to mention the Greeks first. Okay, so it's amazing how, and so when you are vibing on a certain frequency and you see this stuff, you know that you have to keep going, because it's really amazing how within this universe they often, because you have people, you have cultures, and not even cultures, but you have those in the universe that are here who are still trying to find themselves in the sacred geometry of the universe, and they haven't, because they're just students. They're just children. They're children who borrowed off the masters. They're children who are still at the feet of the masters, and they only know what they've been taught, and they haven't been taught everything, because there are still some things that are withheld. So how could you put the masters on the bottom? How could you put the masters on the bottom of the equation and give the credit to the children? As if though the children taught the masters. So again, here we are. And it says, they according to this alluring number are the statues of the Pantheons in Greece, dating back between 490 and 430 BC. However, there are many who have, see how they use the language? There are many who have argued that it goes back much further than this, and that the Egyptians were first versed in the properties of this unique number. I mean, really, let's really, come on. See, this is the kind of stuff, but we're not going to do that. According to some historians, the Egyptians thought that the golden ratio was sacred. Therefore, it was very important in their religion. They used the golden ratio when mathematics of the pharaohs, the Rhine, papyrus, and ancient, I like to say Kemites, but the Greeks gave the name Egypt. So it says that one text that reveals an example of that wisdom is the Rhine papyrus, a document that appears to be an otherwise mundane primer on mathematics, but much of what scholars know of Egyptian mathematics comes from this text. The Rhine papyrus is a document dating to around 1650 BC. It was found and purchased by Alexander Henry Rhine in 1858 from a Nile town in Egypt. The papyrus text is currently in the British Museum, where it was first examined by scholars. It was found to be a mathematical document. It was written by a scribe by the name of Ahmes and consists of a series of practice problems from novice scribes. And remember, we're always using uncopyrighted music here on Amazon.com. Amazon Music. And so what we're going to do, we're going to pause for a moment, and we will be right back. So you guys stay with us. We'll be back. Okay, and we're back. So we're talking about the golden ratio. Again, we're going to continue so that, of course, you can have this information. So we thank you for being with us again. And remember to visit us on Amazon Podcasts, Apple Music, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Patreon, and many, many more other host sites. And remember to like and subscribe. We thank you so much for being with us again. This is Seth Moore coming to you on Anchor by Spotify, by the way of Spreaker and iHeartRadio. So we're talking about the golden ratio. And it talks about the Rhine papyrus that was used around 1650 BC. And also, let me say this. The golden ratio, one of the mathematic formulas that it starts from is 1680. Okay, so, and of course it increases. When it was first examined, it says by these scholars, was found to have a mathematical document subscribed by one of the scribes in Kemet. And it revealed important information how the Kemites worked with multiplication and division and fractions, because the name of the original author is known by the Rhine Papyrus, is also occasionally referred to by as the Almas Papyrus from one of the scribes in Kemet. Okay. The ancient Kemites was one of the first relatively advanced centralized civilization to emerge in the ancient Mediterranean region and probably the world. So how could you give credit to the Greeks then? Although it was the Africans that founded Greece as well, you know. So maybe see. So this is why you really have to know. See, because they didn't do wrong by doing that. They didn't do wrong by doing that. The only wrong and unrighteousness is in that is you not knowing. You understand? You understand what I'm saying? Is you not knowing, because in your mind, and the reason why I said earlier what I said, because it's for that very reason. In your mind, you're thinking the Greeks are other than or other than you, or don't look like your ancestors. But truth be told, it was the Africans that founded Greece as well. That's why they talk about Black Athena. And if you go look, all you have to do is look at the art in Greece and see, they want to make you believe that all of these places were founded by other people, when these places were established by Africans. Like Rome, all of these places were once provinces of indigenous people where they ruled. They ruled. When Africans ruled Rome, when Africans ruled Europe. So when we're talking about, Spain and Carthage and, in Italy, when the Moors and all them were up in there ruling, and all these cathedrals and magnificent edifice that you see built around the world, who you think built them? Who you think built these edifices? They weren't the people who were on a war footing, that were bloodletting and were on the warpath day and night, going through villages and towns and just severe carnage day and night. They had no time to build anything. They were too busy slaughtering one another. So all of these edifices that you see in England, that you see in Italy and Rome and, around the world, all of these places were built by indigenous people. So that's why they try to create a mystical narrative when you see these shows on TV, and they want to credit these other places with other peoples of the world and you have, for instance, an example would be the Grand Canyon, where they found relics, artifacts of Kemet in the Grand Canyon, but the Smithsonian will not show you that because they're hiding it. And it shows you that the Africans were here thousands of years, created civilizations here, who were the first maritime people who traveled the waters, who were absolute expert maritime travelers, who knew which way the wind was blowing and how they can get to certain islands and lands across the world. Because, of course, before all of these lines were created, there was one expanse of land geographically before they broke up and changed the maps, and cut up lands and built the Suez Canal and separated this from that. And they're calling it the Middle East, and they're calling it this, and they're calling it that. This was all by design. They did this to separate lands because of course, territory and, and ownership and wanting to, draw borders and so forth and so on. So this is why this was done. Okay. And to make you think, obviously, that these things were always that way, but they weren't. See, but they're hiding the black Buddhas that are in the Grand Canyon and the relics and the statues that have been found in the Grand Canyon of Kemet with hieroglyphs and all this stuff. They're not showing you that because they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know that indigenous people, that the African was ruling the world. There's no argument in that. So they can call it Maya, they can call it Teotihuacan, they can call it all these different names, but they were dark people who built all these civilizations in Mexico, in Peru, and, you can even go into Mississippi. The Mississippi is the Mississippi River is basically a replica of the Nile in some ways. And they even replicated this in Washington, D.C. Okay? But of course they don't want to give that credit to where it's due. But it will soon be recognized. It will soon come to light. And it has already, really. But you will see as time goes on that these things are unfolding, and they will continue to unfold. The truth will be revealed because there's nothing hidden that shall not be uncovered, okay? And the truth is being revealed as we speak today. So, it says there are many reasons the Kemites needed to learn mathematics. One was related to agriculture and the seasons, because the Kemites, they say Egyptians, I'm going to say Kemites, farmers relied on the regular flooding of the Nile. It was helpful to know when the floods would come so that the farmers could prepare for this reason. The ancient Egyptians taught themselves astronomy. They absolutely did. And it goes to show you that they were on top of their game. They were well versed in all of these areas of geometry, trigonometry, algebra. When the Moors brought algebra to Spain, they brought the concept of zero. They brought etiquette. They were the first to teach the eating with forks and knives. Okay? They brought the pomegranate, they brought the lemon, they brought asparagus. So culinary was created, as well as the first conservatories of music, where they played with the lute with 4 strings. Okay, when you strummed over people's bodies who had sicknesses, the vibrations from the tones would heal them. They brought alcohol. They brought all this stuff when they went into Spain, because Spain was in dire straits. I mean, historically, if you study the history, when the Moors came, they were living in squalor. So, here we are. Kemites priests eventually realized that the flooding season was heralded by electrical rising of the star Sirius. Because of this, the Kemites were very careful to observe the motion of Sirius. Kemite priests eventually used these calculations to create the Kemetic calendar. Yes, they created, along with the Sumerians, the 365-day calendar that we use today. Adding a half a day, first it was for a leap year. So it was the Kemites that done this. They traversed the stars. They knew in which and way. So how do you think they built the pyramids? And they're still trying to figure out today. They're trying to give credit to aliens because they never want to say that Africans built the pyramids. They've been trying to take Kemet out of Egypt. Out of Ikebalon for centuries, which they call Africa. They've been trying to take it out of there for the longest, but you can't. And you have a faction of people living in Kemet, which is the Arabs through conquest and evasion, who want to claim that they're the true Kemites, which we know better. Which we know better. You are not what's on the wall. You never have been. You never have been. And the reason why I'm so compassionate about things when I speak is because, number one, I hate lies. Because I don't lie. I don't have a reason to. I don't like lies. I don't like lies. The ancient Kemites don't appear to have the thought abstractly about numbers. For example, if you mentioned the number 7 to an ancient Kemite, she would probably first think of a grouping of 7 objects rather than the concept of the number. So now look how profound that is. She would think of 7 objects of a number before she would just think of the just 1 7. So she would probably do, 49, because 7 times 7, 49, right? So within that pantheon of numbers, you would come up with a formula. For the ancient Kemites, numbers were quantities of physical objects rather than abstractions which existed separate from the objects that they described. Nonetheless, the ancient Kemites were very adept in using arithmetic to accomplish tasks, and accounting and engineering. Kemetian numerals, like Roman numerals, are closely tied to the Egyptian writing system. So back to and if you look at now, this is so profound. If you look at the Egyptian or Kemetic hieroglyphs or hieratic numerals, they look just like the Hebrew. They're so similar to the Hebrew. So it lets you know, in relation to Hebraic culture, which is also African, they're the cousins of the Kemites. They're related. So it's no wonder why you see this that you see this comparison, you see this identity that is woven within the same number system and the same language alphabetic system of the Kemites and the Hebraic alphabet. And it says Kemetic hieroglyphs probably evolved from pictures used to represent words of ideas over time. They evolved into symbols representing the sounds of words. And one of the things that I often say, because I know too, I've spoken to other Christian people about this, and they often say, the Egyptians, and I'll use that because that's what they say, but it's really Kemites. They say, oh, they worship other gods. And I tell them, I say, no, they didn't. I said, no, they didn't. See, because that's always their claim to fame of trying to defame the theology and to defame the spirituality of the Kemites. And what it does, it creates a buffer. It creates, well, not really a buffer, but it creates a wedge, I should say, between Christianity and Kemetic theology. And Christianity comes out of Kemetic theology, unbeknownst to a lot of people who worship so-called Jesus. So if you say that Kemetic theology is about idol worship, you are doing idol worship yourself, because you're worshiping Jesus. And Jesus never told you to worship him. He said what he was. He said what he came to do, but he never told you. He never said, worship me. Show me that in your scriptures. He never said for you to worship him, but you're worshiping him. Okay? And you're defaming the spiritualities of your ancestors that was borrowed, that Christianity borrowed. Because where do you think the cross comes from? The cross comes from the Ankh. Where do you think the Trinity comes from? That comes from Osiris, Haru, and you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So how are you going to do that? And what they did, and I've tried to tell people this, I've tried to share this with people, where I've said they took nature. This is what the Kemites did. They looked at nature and they used everything in nature, such as the animals, to depict the workings of the universe and the workings of the Creator and the workings of how things work in a spiritual pantheon of the universe. They wasn't worshiping the animals. They understood and understood the workings of the Creator and how he looked at things. So if you say that was worshiping animals, no, that's not what they did. And it shows you the ignorance of, and I hate to put it that way, of people who have not really done any studying, who have not done the research to understand and to understand what was actually being done. And that's the trick of the enemy, to trick you, to make you be against what your ancestors did. And so you will divorce yourself from what your ancestors did, not understanding and not understanding that you basically divorce yourself from high spirituality that's going to save you, that is going to really deliver you from the lowest of, because a lot of us, unfortunately, still haven't risen to the place, because we have said, this is it right here, and it's no more. And really, you're already doing a portion of it, but you have not become the divine proportion of the sacred geometry, because you've gotten away from it. And you said, just let me take the squalor, and I don't mean to really put it that way, in the sense where, but what somebody else has given you and shaped it and molded it and took out and made it their own way, and then they hand it to you, and you say, okay, yeah, this is it. This is what I'll take. I'll live by this. Wow. But you denied the sacred geometry and the divine proportion of what the Creator is given to you. And when he said this to me, that you are everything in the universe from a sacred design, from a sacred place in the universe, that you are sacred geometry, that you are the golden ratio. That just blew me away, y'all. I'm telling you. He said that you are everything that I've created perfectly. in this universe that spiritual laws have to follow. They're in nature, and they have to follow that particular model. This is what the Creator was saying. You are that. And when I got that, I was like, wow, man, it was too much for me to really handle. It was too much for me to really handle. I said, I'm that, and you're that? That you are all of the designs, the perfect designs of the universe. You are interwoven in that spiritual process of divine proportion. So when you look at, for instance, the pyramids and how they're designed and how that their circumference right within the center of the universe, not off an inch. And they're aligned with Orion's belt perfectly. Who can do that other than a God, other than a supreme being? So you are that supreme divine proportion within the universe that you need to rise to once again where you once were, because in the Kemites were that divine proportion of sacred geometry in the universe that they actually set up, that every other culture that came behind had to follow that, because they were the first to do it. They were the first to do it. And so this is why when you look at the Dogon who are in Mali and how they knew about Sirius B star in the heavens 800 years before Westerners knew where the star was. And they was pointing out this star that could not be seen with the naked eye 800 years before Western scholars knew about it. And even the French had came to them and wanted to know how they knew about this. And they said it was no way that they should know it. See, and isn't it amazing how when someone doesn't know something, they don't think you're supposed to know it? Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that amazing? Like, how do you know that? I don't know that. I know it because the Creator told me. So you had that with these scholars, with these European scholars who felt like, how did you know that? I didn't know that. How do you do that? I didn't do that. It wasn't for you to do. It wasn't for you to know. Because if it was, the Creator would have gave it to you. See, and here it is. Just to think, as the French writers wrote, the very people who are the object of our scorn are the very people we owe our allegiance to for writing, science, mathematics, high culture, and even the use of speech. This is what one French writer wrote, and I may not have quoted it verbatim, but you get the idea. The very people that we look at and who are the object of our scorn are the same to whom we owe for creating the sciences, the arts, astronomy, mathematics, writing, paper. The first paper was papyrus, and the use of speech. Now, that's really deep, because as we know, before the Kemites and those who've given speech to the world, the use of speech, of language, you had people who were crawling around on all fours, grunting. That wasn't speech. Okay? And so I know that even from where I broadcast, there are many who are not liking what I'm saying. And therefore, they try in ways to not give credence to a lot of podcasts and numbers that go out, because people need to hear the truth. People need to understand things that matter, things that help people, things that lift people up. And we're not being pejorative. We're not being racist, because we can't be. But people don't like the truth. And one of the key components to your ascension is truth. So we are glad again that you are here with us. And it talks about that Western civilization has always had a fascination with the civilization which grew up along the Nile River. And you know that fascination remains to this day. We are, as I've said many other times, we are the most studied, sought after, culturally diverse people on the planet. You don't see people in Greece looking for nothing. Okay, because of course, after which the Africans left Greece, Greece had its end. So there's nothing, and maybe one of these days they'll go back and they'll start digging up and they'll start finding, and maybe they don't want to, because they'll start finding stuff that'll come up all dark. And so they refuse to probably go there, because Kemet is so fascinating within itself that it takes all of their space and time to continue to unearth things, because there's still things that they're unearthing today in Kemet that have not been revealed yet, and they will continue. They're always finding new discoveries because it's so vast. Okay, it's so vast. And it says Thales, Greek intellectuals such as Thales visited Kemet and were enamored by the design and mathematical exactness of the shape of the pyramids for millennia. They were in awe. When they looked, they could not believe what they were seeing. And Kemet, ancient Kemet, has been considered synonymous with wisdom by the civilization of the Mediterranean basin, but especially the West. They're fascinated. You can turn your TV on any given day, on any given evening, and you can find a show on Kemet. You can go to National Geographic, you'll find countless shows on Kemet. They're fascinated with us because they can't believe that we did it, but it's our ancestors that did it. All of these cultures, Sumeria, the Anunnaki that you talk about all the time, that's us. See, because what you have to understand, is that not only the sacred geometry and the golden ratio that I'm actually talking about was designed and modeled after the indigenous Africans or Kemites or Nubians, Ethiopians, Sumerians, and so forth. And they talk about how the aliens came, and they want to call them aliens. But our people, for description, for maybe a lack of better description, are from the planets too, from the stars. So when you say they came from the stars, yes, we did. We came from the stars. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. You want to say we're aliens? You want to give it that derivative? We're sun people. We come from the stars, from Earth, so, as the Kemites said, as above, so below. What does that mean? As above, as it was when we were in the star, so below when we get here, so below when we manifest here. We begin to build and erect the same things as we had above. As above, so below. What we had in the heavens, we'll bring down here on earth. So that's why you're so fascinated. And the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. One text that reveals an example of the wisdom in the Orion Papyrus, a document that appears to be an otherwise mundane primer of mathematics, but much more of what scholars know of Chemedian mathematics comes from the text. Okay, so anyways, I wanted to bring you some of this today, and I wanted to speak with you on that divine proportion as the Creator has given it to me, which, like I said again, it blew my mind. It blew me away, y'all. It did. So, they had a separate symbol for 1, 10, 100, etc. There was a blocker numeral system that was used in inscriptions on stone monuments and in formal documents. A more convenient abbreviated set of numerals was also used by scribes when writing records on papyri, compared to Arabic numerals, which are used in most of the world today to perform mathematical operations. The Kemites numeral system has limitations in what mathematical problems can be easily solved using a system. That is not true. They don't have no limitations. See, because listen to this, y'all. There's no limitations to the builders who've given this technology. They can't figure it out. That's what it is. They want to say they had limitations. No, you're one with the limitations. They didn't have limitations because you still can't figure out how the pyramids were erected. So who has the limitations? Hello. They don't have no limitations, my friend. And it says they had limitations in what mathematical problems can be easily solved using the system. For example, it is difficult to represent a work with very large numbers using Kemetic numerals. The highest numerical value represented by a single Kemetic numeral is 1 million. If a mathematician wanted to represent 1 billion using Kemetic numerals, it would be very cumbersome and annoying, since he would have to write the symbol for 1 million 1,000 times or invent a new symbol. This might work as first, but what if it was necessary to represent a trillion or a quadrillion? Well, since you're so smart and you tell us, because if it was not readily available for them to figure the equation and you have the equation, why is it you can't figure out how the pyramids were erected? Because all of the theories and theorems that you have come up with so far have failed, and you still haven't figured it out. So how can you teach the teacher? That's what I would like to know. Okay, so here we are, and we're going to stop for this evening, and we're going to come back again to bring more world news to you and information here on Anchor by Spotify, by the way of Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and many other sites where you can visit us. Again, this is Seth Moore coming to you again here on Anchor by Spotify. I'm feeling kind of funny, but it's a good funny. You know, I think it may be, I had bought some beet formula, right? And of course, you're supposed to take the drops and put it in water. And I did, and I drank some. And I was feeling like, it wasn't a high feeling, but I was feeling like real different. You understand what I mean? I was feeling real different, like I'm getting to metamorphosize or something, like I'm getting ready to change, which I am all the time. And this is why I say to you that this change is manifesting itself all the time, because what we have to continue to be mindful of, kings and queens, is that if your desire is to be on a higher vibrational frequency, which you should be, which you are, who you are, you have to contemplate and anticipate the change all the time. You have to look for it. You have to actually look for the change happening within you. Why would you want to remain the same? Why would you? I don't get that. Why would you want to remain the same? Because if you're going to be changed in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, do you think for 1 minute you're going to go from, and don't take offense to this, you can't go from rotten to pureness. You have to gradually be making the transition to a higher source, and it's required that you begin doing something. You begin making those inroads to metamorphosizing your being, your godness, your isness, your nownness, your presentness, because that's where you are. You're in your presentness. We're in the present. So what time better than the present? It should be happening all the time, so that when that transition is unfolding and birthing, then what is happening is you're flowing into it. It's not a shock. You see what I'm saying? Because you go into shock when you are not ready for something. So you don't want it to be a shock. You want it to be a smooth transition. So it's something you should all the time be looking for, be growing into, be blooming into. Be metamorphosizing yourself into this beautiful creature, this beautiful entity. And leaving the mind behind and going inwardly and begin to birth from your intuition, that beautiful soul that you are, that beautiful, creative, sacred geometry, that sacred golden ratio. So until next time, y'all, we'll see you. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. This is Seth Morgan coming to you once again as we bid you peace and high vibrations. Until the next time, have a great evening.